First discovery, then development, then delivery, and back again to discovery. We must never cease. Our efforts for 21st century cures is now underway.
Michigan Congressman Fred Upton, part of a bipartisan push in Congress to make medical cures happen faster. One step toward making that happen is a series of roundtable discussions, one of them happening this morning in downtown Kalamazoo. And Congressman Upton here this morning along with the director for the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Francis Collins. Thank you both for being here. Good morning.
Good morning, Kirk. Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you as well. And Congressman, let me start with you. This event this morning.
You know it's Fred. Stop it right now.
I understand that. This morning's event, let's talk, though, in a broader sense. When you talk medical cures, a lot of folks would think the doctors here, that's the medical field, the experts. How can Washington help with medical cures?
Well, what today is, it's yet another step in what we've done, about 24 now of these, many around the country, obviously a number in Washington as well, where my colleagues and I can listen to the experts. What is it that we can do as legislators to make their job easier so that we can speed up the delivery and the approval of drugs and devices, obviously very important for Kalamazoo with Stryker and Pfizer and Perrigo that's here. And let's face it, there is not a family that isn't faced with something, Alzheimer's, cancer, Parkinson's, you name it. And there is a frustration that it takes so long to get a drug approved safely. It costs so much money. If we can shorten that time, if we can figure out what's different today than the approval 30, 40 years ago, bingo, we can really help.
And doctor, the reality is the assessment on some level is some cures we're not maybe doing as well as we could. These could be happening faster, right? I mean, is that the premise here?
It is the premise. I mean, science right now is at a remarkable juncture. We are able to make discoveries about the causes of disease and ways that we could intervene at a pace that I wouldn't have imagined 10 or 20 years ago. But it still takes a long time to get from that insight into that clinical benefit, which is what we're all waiting for. What Fred's done here is to put together in a bipartisan way an effort to identify what are some of those roadblocks and what could we do about them. And this is a remarkable, encouraging kind of development for all of us who are trying to speed up the process of getting to cures.
From what you've heard, what you've seen, is there a key roadblock? Is there something specific that we could change right now that would save lives? I mean, what are you seeing?
It's a long list of things. Some of them are big issues. Some of them might seem kind of minor. They really get in your way, and there's a lot of sort of bureaucracy that's built up over the years in terms of how we do science, how we do regulation, just trying to knock down all those obstacles and make this whole engine run at a pace that everybody's waiting for.
Okay, I want you guys to stay pat for just a minute. We're going to talk more about this search for medical cures. Also want to talk about the Ebola virus since we have an expert on disease here this morning. We'll do that when we return after break. And joining us live in studio this morning, Michigan Congressman Fred Upton and the director for the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Francis Collins. There's a roundtable discussion, 10 this morning, downtown Kalamazoo at the Homer Stryker School of Medicine about ways to find medical cures faster. Congressman Upton, we are at the medical school, and that's significant. You will be there this morning. There's a reason you want it there, right?
Well, this is a new class. I mean, let's face it, this is such a good thing now for Kalamazoo. We're going to meet with the students. We're going to take a tour afterward of the school. But, you know, for Michigan, the state of Michigan gets $500 million a year. This is research later on that, in fact, we can utilize right here in Southwest Michigan.
And you were talking, Doctor, a lot of people think in Maryland, Washington, D.C. is maybe where these problems are solved medically, and that's not true. There's a lot of money that comes back into Michigan from the federal government to fight these issues, right?
Absolutely. The National Institutes of Health is the largest supporter of biomedical research in the country, actually in the world, and that money doesn't sit there in Bethesda. It goes out in grants to our nation's finest researchers. States like Michigan getting some $576 million this past year, all of it to support those breakthroughs that you read about, and that's because of this amazing American ingenuity that we tap into every year with our research efforts.
While we have you here, Doctor, of course, we want to talk about Ebola. You became famous for your work through the Human Genome Project. You know a lot about trying to find cures to things. Is it possible a cure to Ebola could be found?
We're working on that. In fact, we've been working on Ebola now for almost 20 years. The first outbreak happened in 1976. We've been working on a vaccine. We are already in phase 1 trials for that and hope to be able to distribute that within a few months to those who are in harm's way, particularly healthcare workers in West Africa. But we're also working on a cure. You may have heard about that antibody cocktail, ZMapp, that was given only to a small number of patients. We don't know for sure whether that's going to turn out to work because we've done so few patients, but it looks very promising in the animal model, and we are pushing as hard as we can to get that scaled up, tested in a rigorous trial, and then made available to those who get sick.
Sounds like you think in our lifetime we might see that.
Oh, absolutely. I would hope we'd have that soon. A year from now.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I mean, when you're around and you talk to folks about Ebola, you get these questions. Boy, Americans are coming back from that area, and we've had these folks exposed in Texas. Should this have been handled differently? Could there be a way to prevent exposure, to protect people? I mean, we've heard these reports of so many kids being around this infected person, and that frustrates people.
Sure. And I think in retrospect, unfortunate things happened with Mr. Duncan. First of all, he didn't disclose the fact that he'd been exposed to somebody with Ebola before he got on that plane and came to the U.S., and it would have been much better had he told the truth. And secondly, he got sort of misdiagnosed the first time he showed up in an emergency room in Dallas, and another couple of days went by where other people got exposed that really shouldn't have happened. But for the most part, people should relax about this in the United States. The idea that there's going to be a massive outbreak in our country, it's just not going to happen. On the other hand, our hearts should break for those people in Liberia and Sierra Leone and Guinea who are going through the most horrendous catastrophe, and we should be doing everything we can to help them.
I think it's worth noting that, again, we're going to wrap up here, but you think very, very small risk of this having a major impact in the U.S.
I mean, we may see another patient come off a plane and get sick. We may see a couple of secondary cases in Dallas. That could happen. But a major outbreak, no way.
Okay, and a reminder, 10 a.m. this morning, downtown Kalamazoo, searching for medical cures at the School of Medicine.
We have both Pfizer and Stryker participating as well.
Okay. Gentlemen, thanks for being here this morning. Some interesting conversation for sure. We're going to send things over to Jeff now with some